to Behind the Campaign, the podcast where marketers pull back the curtain on some of their best campaigns. I'm here today with Dominique Gilmour, who is the Vice President of Creative Services for Borshoff, and Colin Dullaghan, who is a senior writer at Borshoff. So welcome to both of you. Today we're talking about kind of a fun campaign for the Indianapolis Zoo to showcase their new Alligators and Crocodiles campaign that actually started a couple of years ago. Dominique, can you tell us a little bit about how this campaign came about? Did they come to you with ideas already, or did you kind of brainstorm? How did this all happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Vice President of Client Services, so I'm on the account side and not the creative side, in case anybody is wondering. So the zoo, we started working with the zoo in 2019 as their agency of record. And for the zoo, every year we do about 4 different campaigns. Exuberance, which is their spring festival event, Zoo Christmas at the Zoo, and then during the summer is when it's their big exhibit, which is usually either a new animal that's being introduced to the zoo, or they've refreshed a whole area like a elephant exhibit, right? So they've refreshed that and they're kind of grand opening this new experience for visitors. So since we're their agency of record, kind of every year we know that we're going to have these on the docket. And so we knew Alligators and Crocodiles, which was the exhibit a few years ago, was coming. So we started planning probably in December for, they launch mid-May and run through the whole summer. So they will tell us kind of a lot. Usually it's information about the actual experience that customers or the visitors are going to have at the zoo. But also goes into a lot of the conservation story, because the zoo's mission is to protect nature and inspire people to care about the world, right? So that is their mission, and they live it every single day. They live and breathe it. We feel passionate about being good stewards to try and get that message out there, because it is so important. So it always kind of starts with, what is that conservation story that they're trying to tell? What is the experience that we're going to be giving these visitors that we need to communicate through our campaign? And then our job is to then figure out, well, how do we spark enthusiasm within our markets to drive attendance, right? How do we get people to want to purchase a membership and go multiple times, or go for the first time, or, become repeat visitors where they go multiple times because their experience is going to be different every single time, which it is at the zoo. So we knew Alligators and Crocodiles were coming up. There was concern for a couple of reasons. One, it's a very, very, very complicated conservation story, because the American alligators is one of the most successful conservation stories in the world, right? So a few decades ago, they were almost extinct, and now they're thriving. Whereas the Orinoco crocodile is one of the most endangered reptile species out there. So it was a very complicated conservation story to try and tell in a billboard. And then the other thing is that alligators and crocodiles are not furry, fluffy, I want to squeeze them, I don't want to hug them type of an animal. So how do we get excitement? So there was a little concern about, are they actually going to drive the gate? Are people going to be interested in them? What is it? And then as adults, we were all looking at it like, we know people are going to think they're scary, and they're like dinosaurs, and they're scaly, and all this kind of stuff, and big teeth, and so that's naturally where I think we were all going when it was what's going to excite the audience to motivate attendance. So we were all talking, and we were like, why are we keep thinking, like we keep trying to think like what kids are going to respond to? What are these people going to respond to? Like, instead of us thinking it, let's go out and find out. So that's what we did. In December, leading up to, like I said, it launches mid-May, right? Which means that we have to have all assets done the beginning of May. We interviewed a bunch of kids to kind of hear from them, like, what do you know about alligators and crocodiles? What do you like? What do they like? Any kind of information that we can glean of what their response to alligators and crocodiles were. And it was fascinating. Kids are just so endearing because they are just so honest, right? They will just say anything, and they're just 100% themselves, right? It's beautiful to be able to interact with them in this kind of way. And so we recorded all of these, and we're taking notes, and Colin interviewed them and did a phenomenal job. And as we were going back through everything, we started to kind of weed through what we were hearing. And we heard a lot of the things that you think you're going to hear, like, they're scary, the big teeth and all this kind of stuff. Most people were fascinated by them. But the thing that was really evident is that every single time we were talking to them, every single kid started spouting off facts that whether they were true or not true, they were very said with a lot of conviction, but weren't necessarily true. But they would all get this excitement. You can see it in their eyes. Like they were just so excited to tell all the facts and tell us about things, which to us just seems like, well, duh, like every kid, like, you know what I mean? We all are like that. Like all of us growing up, and how many of us can still sing the lyrics to certain songs because it taught us about a bill, right? Or whatever it is, that there's this thing about knowledge and having knowledge and sharing knowledge that is just fueled by curiosity that is so innate to all of us that as we get older, we tend to stifle it. So that was one thing that we got from that research, that then the creative team, there were a lot of other things that we got from it as well, and I'll toss it off to Colin, since it's really his brain and our art director, Aaron, and our creative director, Ryan, that worked on this, of how they kind of took those insights and brought it to life. The other challenge that we always face with the big exhibit campaigns that happen is production-wise, we can't usually get in to film within those exhibit spaces because they aren't really completed until about a week before it opens. And we're in market 1 to 2 weeks before it opens. So we can't actually produce a TV spot or anything in those spaces and have it in market in time. So that's the other creative challenge that our team masterfully solves for on a regular basis.
That's great. There's so much in there I kind of want to unpack. The last thing you mentioned was that, and something that a lot of marketers don't think about, is you didn't have access to the product or the service in order to do your visual elements of your marketing campaign. So I don't know, Dominique or Colin, which one of you want to kind of answer this question, but how did you overcome that?
You want me to go?
You lay it down, Dommy.
So we've done it in multiple different ways. What we're going to talk about today, we didn't actually need the space to do it, to execute on the creative concept. Other times a lot of the time they have the animals in the space, they just don't have them in the new exhibit space. So we will go in, and Bennett, who is our in-house video producer, works with a great team to kind of then create and set dress the whole space so that it feels like the space will feel. And we work with the zoo very closely with their agriculture team and everything to get the right plants in there and the straw and whatever it is so that we can shoot within that space so it feels like it will for visitors, but we were able to get in there and get it done and get it in market before the exhibit actually opens.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite challenges. I'm glad that you were interested in it too. It's that the zoos, like Dami said, we do 4 campaigns a year for them, but the big one is always the summer one, and it's never ready by the time that we need to film it. It's only going to be ready by the time that the campaign needs to run. So sometimes we concept around it. I'm remembering in the first year, the campaign was about snakes and sloths, and our campaign concept was built around the fan bases, the rabid fan bases for each of these animals. And we imagined people being such big fans of snakes and sloths that they tailgated in the parking lot outside the zoo. And they had like foam fingers that looked like a sloth, and like they were dressed like snakes. And we filmed it in a parking lot that was not the zoo's parking lot, but did not yet need the sloth area to be ready, or the snake area. And then just a few months ago, Dami, you were there, I think, we were filming the tortoises, the giant Aldabra tortoises, who are, their space is still not done, actually. They're in a temporary location. But when we needed to film them, they were actually in quarantine. Like, they couldn't be around any other animals yet. So our brilliant art department, primarily Aaron Scamahorn, the senior art director, and Bennett's team transformed the quarantine space to look like a natural tortoise space. And I will never forget that It was kind of a confined area because one of the tortoises didn't want to be in the area where we needed him to be filmed, and we had to pick him up. And he weighed 400 pounds or so, so it took like four of us. Yeah, it's without digressing any further, it's always an interesting challenge to film the zoo's summer exhibit before it's done.
And I assume you have all of the zoo, appropriate zoo staff around that are helping and.
Oh yeah, when I say we moved him, mostly they moved him. I just helped.
Yeah. No, I cannot stress. I mean, the zoo, everybody that works over there, phenomenal to work with. Everybody kind of jumps in. Whatever needs to happen is going to happen. They'll work with us. Like I said, people like that work on the landscaping is in there. The animal care team, everybody. It's guest services, catering. Like they're just insanely wonderful to work with.
They're wonderful collaborators, and they will accommodate every request that we have except to put any of the animals' safety at risk. And occasionally we'll find out that what we just asked for, they're like, we can never do that. Like, you can't take the tortoises outside in April. It's too cold for them. But like before they've acclimated to quarantine, we're like, all right, looks like we're filming in this box then where they go. That's the only thing they won't compromise, and good on them for that.
And I would be remiss, since we're talking about video right now, if I didn't mention that Borshoff just launched a new video studio. Am I correct, Dominique, that I saw that recently?
Yeah.
So kudos to Borshoff. If any of you out there are listening and are looking for video production assistance, make sure to check them out.
Yes, it's called Labs.
Video Labs.
Borshoff
Okay.
Labs.
Yep.
Colin, can you talk to me a little bit about how you developed kind of the written communications around this? What were some of the considerations? I know I've worked in industries that are somewhat regulated and where we very consciously pick certain words, avoid different words. Were there considerations around those types of things that went into kind of all the written communications around this campaign?
Sure. To Dami's point a moment ago, we did have that insight that our target audience, young and old, actually, was really much more interested in the facts around these reptiles than we would have thought. It seems kind of obvious in retrospect. And our zoo clients were like, yeah, everyone loves knowing how many pounds of force a crocodile's jaws can exert. Like, all right, well, you already know the outcome of the campaign. We decided to do a song about it, the reptile rhyme. And that turned out to be a really good way to appealingly integrate a lot of language. Because if you're going to share facts about one, then you need to share facts about others, and you need to communicate the appeal of the exhibit itself. But when you're doing a rap song in 30 seconds, and there actually was a full 3-minute version as well, you get to say everything that you need to say, including that the American alligator thrives in the swamp, but the Orinoco's future needs a real game changer. These guys are endangered, so don't be a stranger. You can rhyme fun things while communicating the complexity of that point that Dominique was mentioning. So that was very enjoyable, and it was just a really fun campaign to create.
Speaking of that rap song, let's listen to said song here for a moment, and then we'll talk about it a little bit on the flip side.
The American alligator thrives in the swamp, and with powerful jaws, she's the champion of trump. It's a treat to me. An Orinoco crocodile staying quiet and hidden is more of their style. But the Orinoco's future needs a real game changer. These guys are endangered, so don't be a stranger. Trip to the zoo for some reptile chit chat. Also helps preserve their habitat. We'll see you right here. Can't wait for your visit. Alligators and crocodiles at this brand new exhibit.
So that was very fun. I bet you guys had a good time filming that. And to your point about not having the alligators in their habitat, it looks like you used some kind of clip art and maybe some video B-roll footage of some alligators. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, props again to ACE art director Aaron Scammahorn, incorporated the two-dimensional imagery of the alligators and crocodiles. And yeah, the B-roll / stock of alligators and crocodiles, we made sure that everything that is shown is the exact species that we're talking about, because again, the zoo are sticklers, as they should be.
Yeah.
But
They're the stewards for all the animals.
They are.
Yeah.
And yeah, worked around the fact that, as you could see, we did film at the zoo with our performer and his backup dancers, who are local kids from a breakdancing school. Fantastic kids. I still follow one or two of them on Instagram, and I just love them. And I also need to mention, I would be remiss not to note that Anthony Howard, a local music producer with a dozen albums under his belt, created that track for us, and we were really pleased to be connected with him. We don't know how to produce a rap song.
Wasn't
but
it
he does.
Emmanuel too? The lead in the spot, Emmanuel?
Yeah, Emmanuel Carter is the lead, fantastic actor and a talented rapper. I didn't really know that about him. We'd actually worked with him. Eagle Eyes might notice Emmanuel in the background of the previous year's campaign before Reptile Rhyme. For Timbo Camp, you see him and a child kind of approaching the fence at the end of the spot. And he was one of the fans of Team Snake in the original. We kind of reached out to him in 2021, and we're like, can you rap by chance? And he's like, huh, let me try. And he submitted a demo to us with our scratch script, him and his son trading verses. And we were like, he's not just promising, like he really can do it. And
It's not just
it
a
was
pretty face.
I will say one of my favorite moments ever was presenting the concept and Colin rapping.
yeah, yeah.
Somewhere
It was
deep in the
awful.
bowels of Borshoff files that probably exists somewhere, right? Did you record
I
it?
don't have a recording of it, thank heavens, but look, this morning I was looking through the presentation files and I actually see um, slide 47 on Reed's Facebook post intro, and then slide 44. Colin reads the radio script, embarrasses himself trying to rap. That was listed in my presentation notes.
Yeah.
So speaking of the rap portion of this, how did that come about? The idea of you guys creating this rap track and making that part of the campaign, because that's a little bit outside of the box, I would say, for a lot of mainstream campaigns. How did that brainstorming process go?
The notes that I've revisited from 2021 reminded me that this was the second of two really good ideas. The other one was more based around the idea that the irony of children defending creatures as fearsome as crocodiles, because they're 10 feet long and they have these big fangs, but the idea of like little kids saying, pick on someone your own species, like, I will protect you as a bold 4-year-old. And actually, I'd forgotten about this too, but we linked in our presentation, we were taking inspiration from the then newly presented Fearless Girl sculpture by the New York Stock Exchange, her standing up to that bull. Yeah. And just that image of a little person defending against something so big really seemed inspiring. But as a writer, at the same time, I thought, man, I hope they pick the rap thing, because that lets us use so many more words, and it lets us communicate, not just one's endangered, the other one's not, what their jaws are like, but also at the end you heard your trip to the zoo for some reptile chit-chat also helps preserve their habitat. I just don't know how we could have gotten all those points in otherwise. Yeah. And admittedly, inspired by Hamilton. I've never loved learning about, the American Revolution as much as when I'm watching Lin-Manuel Miranda rap about it. And then, of course, Dami and I, very similar generations, we both remember learning what a bill is and how it makes its way through Capitol Hill. And there's just this fun and proud tradition that I don't think every brand actually has access to. I don't think most of the clients that Borshoff works with could pull off communicating their message in the form of hip-hop. But for the zoo, it just felt right. And that was the client's conclusion. We presented those two ideas, and I think pretty resoundingly they chose this one.
Yeah, which kind of leads me to another question. Is this a typical campaign for the zoo? You've worked with them for many years, or do you kind of do something new and different each time?
It's different every time. That Snakes and Sloths one where people were tailgating, just looking back at the list, it still stands apart as kind of one of the weirdest ones. But I'm looking back, in between that and Alligators and Crocodiles and the Reptile Rhyme, we did a campaign for Timbo Camp, which was the newly expanded area for the elephants. And it enabled people to have like close-up encounters with elephants. Within reason, you can't like climb in there with them. But it was while Reptile Rhyme, the 30-second spot might have had 100, 120 words in it, Timbo Camp only had 4. The girl walks up and like touches the ear of the elephant and goes into this like dreamlike reverie of all the things that the elephant has ever dreamt of, and then it just says connect to something bigger, and then the logo comes up. So a very different tone from tailgating and rapping, but it all feels authentic to the zoo. We're
And I
mindful of that.
think too, when we look at so much of it too is what's going on in our society at that time too that you want to tap into. And Tembo Camp was happening during COVID because we shot during COVID. It was the first time that we filmed, right? I mean, the zoo had been shut down and it opened up with limited numbers of attendants. You had to make a reservation to go, all time ticketing and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But the spot itself, like, it really worked for what this exhibit was and that engagement you're going to have with the elephants, because you really do see, like, when you're looking at them eye to eye, and just it is magical, right? And it's not, you don't get to experience that every day. And it's the kind of stuff that you're going to remember from your childhood, or you're going to remember experiencing that with your child. But also during that time, we all needed to connect to people in some way. And it just really was beautiful for that time.
Yeah, we all wanted to connect.
It sounds like you have obviously a pretty big team at Borshoff who kind of kicks off the idea phase of these campaigns. Can you kind of describe a little bit of what that process is for Borshoff? Do you guys kind of all get in a room and banter about ideas? How do you go about your ideation for a new campaign?
Well, it starts with the brief that Dominique and, in this case, Christina Melendez now would develop along. What would you say? In tandem with the client, would you say that you develop the brief, or is it all just you guys?
No, it's with us. So we'll do the first draft on it with information that we've gathered, pulled together from the client, or from research, or from what we know is happening out in the world at the time, right? So there are certain things that are happening, and we compile that into a brief. Then we internally review it with creative director and Ryan in this case, sometimes other team members, sometimes Colin or whatever, to refine it. Once internally we're all good with the brief, we send it to the client and get their buy-off on it, and if they need to make any modifications or anything. And once we have approval on it from the client, our internal team's good to go, we schedule an internal kickoff where the whole team, so the creative team, the account team, video production, the paid media, because we do all the paid media as well, so the media team's usually involved, and they're going to have insights when it comes to what assets we need to create and all that kind of stuff. So we do a big kickoff, and we go through the brief, answer any questions. Colin always comes with really good questions or insights during those conversations, and then I'll kick it off because I don't know what happens behind the scenes in the creative world.
Well, from there, it's kind of that classic agency model that I've seen pretty much everywhere I've worked, but art director and writer sitting in a room together. Each comes with a few beginnings of ideas and hopes to amuse the other one or intrigue, and often neither of us likes anything that the other guy has or what we've come up with, but we just kind of keep digging until we find something that makes us, lean forward in our chair and starts more ideas and seems to have the proverbial legs. And in this case, it came down to 4, found in the notes this morning. It came down to 4 for the internal review, which Aaron and I brought maybe half a dozen ideas to Ryan. And Ryan's really good. Ryan Knoll, the creative director, is really good at helping identify strengths and weaknesses and saying, I really think you guys seem to like C and D, but I think A and B are your strongest ones. Like, sometimes he does that. We came with 4 from that to the internal review with Dominique and Christina, and they are able to check us on strategic alignment with the brief, with the client's objectives. Sometimes we might find an execution that feels really promising and appealing, but they might say, you've gotten a little bit too excited about the creative possibility here. You've lost a little bit of sight of the larger goal that we're trying to accomplish. And fortunately, over time, we don't do that as much as we did earlier on in our partnership. We're pretty good at being mindful that, no, I don't think a rap song about alligators and crocodiles is just funny. I think it actually does what the zoo needs it to do. And if we all are in agreement, we go to that first presentation to the client. And the timeline on this, I actually wrote down this morning. The brief was dated January 6th of 21, and we presented to the client on February 4th. So we had just shy of a month for that process.
Was that the first present? Because with the zoo too, we do a presentation with the marketing team, a couple of other director level roles, get their feedback, make refinements, and then usually a week after that we present to the CEO and the leadership team.
That was February 10th, so 6 days after that.
And we did that research before the brief, obviously. So we did that in December. Yeah.
December, we talked to all those different kids.
I bet
And
that was fun.
it really was. My favorite part was I had a picture of an alligator with its jaws open that I would like present at one point during the Zoom call with the kids and just watch their faces. And then I had the sound of an alligator roaring that I would be like, hey, do you guys know what an alligator sounds like? And they were like, no. And then I'd play it and then they would make a reaction. And then, Dominique, do you remember we actually had the kids do their own best impression of that roar, which was so great. We actually made a little compilation of the highlights and key points from that research and used that in our concept presentation to the clients to say, here's where we drew insight from.
Because both concepts that we presented really did stem from insights that we garnered during that research.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The craziest sounding thing that the kids said, though, that I think you might be remembering, Dami, that you were like, sometimes they thought they knew something, but knew had to be put in air quotes. Yeah. Turns out that kid was right. These two little twin boys, one of them was like, I read a lot about alligators, and I believe that in the times of dinosaurs, some alligators walked on their back legs on two legs. And his brother's like, there's no chance that's true. And the kid's like, no, I read it in a book. And he's like, absolutely not. He was right.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Way to go, kid. I imagine with an organization like the zoo, you have a lot of audiences that you are trying to target with your marketing campaign. So obviously you have the kids who you want to get excited and have them tell their parents, we want to go to the zoo, but also the parents as well. You want to get them their interest. Mm-hmm. With a attraction like the zoo, which is so big here in Indy, do you also either target or work with any of the local tourist organizations like Downtown Indy Inc. or Visit Indy, or are they an audience? Do you work with them? Do you have any interaction with them on things like this with the zoo?
So the zoo itself has very, very close relationship with Visit Indy, Downtown Indy, all that. On our front, we work with them. So we've worked with Visit Indy, Downtown Indy on some of the ad placements or different things. So when we've done pole banners, for example, downtown, that goes through, I think Downtown Indy right now. So we work with them in that, ads, whatever, when they do their annual kind of public magazine that goes out to visitors outside of the area. We do ads in that. They have also, I think the zoo has a partnership with them as it relates to kind of a package that they have for kind of experiences for people when they're visiting Indianapolis that they can purchase. But for us, we aren't collaborating with them outside of kind of more of a paid media thing, but we haven't really worked with them in other ways. Like activation, I think the zoo has worked a little bit. I remember we did the circle that one year for Snakes and Sloths when they were doing they were on the circle for the Colts thing and stuff like that.
And we deal with Indigo with the buses. And
you guys do
and
great.
the Skywalk.
On the
we do
Indigo buses. Yeah, I've seen those.
We have the Sky Bridge downtown, things like that, yeah.
Indy is a great tourist destination, I would say.
Absolutely.
We have so much going on downtown. I'll give a little plug for Indy. But things like the zoo and the Idledorg and the all the museums and things like that. So having the Indy Zoo here, it's an awesome zoo. My kids are grown now, but when they were little, we had the membership, and so we could go whenever, when the kids were bored or just, needed something to do, or one of the new exhibits. We would go there. We've spent many hours at the zoo just hanging out and chilling with the animals. So definitely somewhere to go if you haven't been there yet. So,
do you have a favorite animal, Andy?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, what?
Do you have a favorite? Did you have a favorite animal back then, or do you now?
Oh gosh, I don't know. It's been so long since I've been to the zoo. Because like I said, my kids are in their 20s. I'm an empty nester now. But I don't know. Probably the elephants are good. Yeah, I like the elephants. Just the enormity of them. It's like it kind of gives you a different perspective on life, I guess. Yeah. And so I like the elephants.
Same here.
Well, and I would say the elephants. Yeah, I love the orangutan and now the chimpanzee, which this last year, this is the second year, but the International Chimpanzee Complex opened, which is absolutely, as an adult, I know your kids are grown, highly recommend going. If you want to go, let us know. We will get you tickets to go.
Awesome. I've got the
incredible. It spans the entire zoo. They have trails up above that the chimpanzees have complete freedom to go from space to space on their own. So they're living within the zoo in the same way that they live in the wild. It's called functional naturalism. Because they're very much community animals, they do not like to be solo, so they end up creating like communities, and they'll have their little kind of core posse that they hang out with. But they like to go and visit and hang out with other people and stuff like that, but they like to do it on their own. And this exhibit is created throughout these 3 different kind of hubs throughout the place, and these tall bridges that they can travel from place to place, that they're able to live and function within the spaces are designed so that they can function like they do out in the wild.
Very nice.
Climbing like how they would climb. So it may look industrial, right? Because it's got to be things that chimpanzees can not destroy. So you're working with like steels and things like that. But everything about it was designed so that they can interact with it the same way they would interact out in the wild. And none of these chimpanzees have ever lived in the wild. A lot of them they're community animals. Before coming here, they were isolated and by themselves for the majority of their adult life. So this has just been a sanctuary for them, really.
They've been improving tremendously, and that campaign theme was chimpanzees being chimpanzees, because that is truly the accomplishment that the zoo has brought about. And that's the spectacle that we can just go and witness, is just the simple fact of their authentic existence. And yeah, to what Dami said, you got to go. It's
amazing.
It's always nice when you can make eye contact with a zoo animal, but with the chimpanzees, it's likely, especially in the culture center, you go up against that glass, like they want to see what's going on with you, and you will feel all the feels when you lock eyes with one of them.
Okay,
And they're the closest to human beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're watching us, going, well, they did that too. Like we do that, just like we are. It's amazing.
Yeah,
And they
there's
kind
a
of
curiosity.
they know that they're intimidating, so they'll do little things because they know it was going to kind of like they'll kind of get you to jump a little bit. It's really cute.
Yep. So we really like the zoo, as you can tell.
Like
tell?
it sounds. It would be a great client, I think, to work with. I know that I believe the Alligator and Crocodile campaign won some awards. Is there anything else you would like to add in about this campaign before we end today?
Yeah. Tell her about attendance, Tommy.
Yeah.
Do we have any of those stats handy?
We do. We exceeded all of our attendance goals by over 24%. So it was actually a record-breaking, I think the second highest attendance that they've ever had in the history of the zoo, and that includes when the orangutan opened up. I think we may have beat that with chimpanzee last year, though. So don't know if that's so, but at the time it was. So we really exceeded the goals on that. And then it won an Emmy. It won an Addy. It won the Association of Zoos and Aquariums Award. It was in the pizzazz there. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that we...
They got more. The zoo, bless their hearts. We suggested that they put up a QR code on the zoo's campus where people could access the actual full song of the reptile rhyme on SoundCloud. And people did it. That QR code actually got scanned and people came and listened to the zoo's whole song.
Yeah, it's like a 3-minute. I think I sent that to you too, Andy, so you have it in case you want to put it on the car while you're driving somewhere.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story is more rapping coming, maybe?
We just kicked off a new project for the zoo, and Bennett, the producer, said, maybe don't do a song this time.
And it had such good results.
I'll send it to you. I found a great portrait of me and Emmanuel on set during the shoot.
Very good. Well, thank you both for being here today. This was sounds like a very fun campaign to work on, and it was great hearing about all of the stuff that you've worked on with the Indianapolis Zoo. So we will make sure we get this posted and everyone else can hear about it as well.
Thank you so much.